Good evening. My name is Sarah Machado. Allow me to introduce my panelist, Dr. Philip Treadwell. Today I will be speaking to you about the benefits of EPCS, the electronic prescribing of controlled substances. Allow me to tell you the story of a woman named Judy. She is a mom who participated in the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's campaign to raise prescription opioid awareness and shared the story of her son, Steve. As an adult, Steve suffered from a disastrous back injury that caused him severe pain that the doctors were unable to ease. This injury impacted Steve's way of life so much that he became depressed, and none of the antidepressants that the doctors prescribed were able to eliminate his symptoms. Then, Steve was prescribed opioids. Steve was thrilled when he realized this new medication was actually working, but he did not realize the catastrophic damage it would have on his life. Steve quickly became addicted to the opioids he was prescribed, and within 3 years, he was seeking out multiple doctors to fill new prescriptions. Despite Steve's efforts to overcome his addiction, he relapsed and died of an overdose at age 43. Judy found a note that her son had written describing his experience with prescription opioids. At first, they were a lifeline. Now, they are a noose around my neck. The opioid epidemic is one of the most destructive events ever to occur in the US. But there is something we can do about it. A new technology has given prescribers a powerful weapon to combat the opioid epidemic. It is called EPCS, the electronic prescribing of controlled substances. Controlled substances, like opioids, are medications that can cause physical and mental dependence, and the manufacturing, possession, and use of which is strictly regulated by law. EPCS is specific to controlled substances because it is these drugs that are most likely to be diverted or potentially abused. Controlled substances cause the majority of deaths related to drug overdose. The adoption of EPCS should be mandatory for all pharmacists and prescribers, with very few exceptions, in order to reduce the opioid epidemic and make the prescribing process more streamlined and efficient. The opioid epidemic. Florida declared it as a health emergency in 2017. Starting when prescribers began to prescribe opioids at greater rates, this crisis has led to the widespread misuse and abuse of prescription and non-prescription opioids. The following video from the CDC reveals some of the true desolation the opioid epidemic has caused.
My son was 20 years old when he was prescribed opioids.
I think I was 16 years old. I must have gotten a 30-day script. I took them all in 3 days.
A car ran a stop sign and completely T-boned us.
Nothing mattered more than getting my fix.
I was given a prescription opioid pain medication, and within only a few months, I was completely addicted.
My brother RJ had me believe that he knew exactly what he was taking.
My son Steve did not want to die, but his prescription opioids killed him.
It's likely that everybody knows somebody who is struggling with this very problem.
I was stealing from people, buying substances on the street. And I look back at that time with a lot of shame. You know, that's not who I am.
I want people to know that these drugs are addictive, and one pill can equal death.
There was nobody to tell me that these have a really high potential for addiction.
My son overdosed at the age of 22 years old.
We lost RJ at 32 to prescription opioid overdose.
You never expect that you're going to lose a child. It's all out of order.
My dad took one pill too many that ultimately killed him.
It just takes one.
In 2015, there were around 50,000 drug overdose deaths, with 60% of those deaths related to opioids. In 2017, there were over 70,000 drug overdose deaths, with 70% related to opioids. EPCS has the potential to reduce and even eliminate some of the problems that contribute to this devastating epidemic, such as forgery and diversion. Forgery and alteration of paper prescriptions are some of the most prominent problems associated with the opioid epidemic. Forgery involves someone stealing or making a prescription pad, writing what they want, and copying the signature of a prescriber. Altering a prescription involves someone making an addition or change to an existing prescription, which commonly results in the patient getting a larger quantity of the prescribed substance than intended. Paul Urick, the Chief Administrative, Legal, and Privacy Officer at SureScripts, recounts an episode of forgery. He states, "The episode involved a patient who, when given a paper prescription for 10 tablets, simply changed the 1 to a 4, and then brought the prescription to the pharmacist to be filled. The pharmacist caught the altered prescription, but if he hadn't, the patient could have walked away with 4 times the amount he was prescribed, and no one would have been the wiser." Shown is an example of a prescription altered to read Tylenol 4 instead of the intended Tylenol 2. It is simple as adding the stroke of a pen to alter a prescription and cause severe damage. Dr. Philip Treadwell, the clinical pharmacist at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, commented in an interview, "Before, it was as easy as stealing a prescription pad and writing what you wanted, or physically altering a legitimate prescription. Now, you would need major technical skills to pull off a forgery." While reducing forgery is a significant benefit of EPCS, it is only one type of fraud that EPCS has the potential to reduce. Diversion is defined as obtaining and illicitly using a controlled substance. There are many types of diversions besides forgeries, one example being doctor shopping. Doctor shopping occurs when a patient obtains prescriptions from multiple doctors who are unaware of any previous prescriptions. EPCS can prevent this by integrating a patient's electronic prescription records for pharmacies and providers to access. SureScripts, a health information technology company, is the leading organization in support of EPCS. They claim that their medication history system provides doctors with the most detailed and recent prescription history data, allowing them to track all medications to identify and eliminate any risks related to specific patients. In summary, through eliminating paper prescriptions and integrating electronic health records, EPCS has the potential to reduce some of the significant problems that fuel the opioid epidemic. Another major benefit of EPCS is that it makes the prescribing process more efficient by reducing errors related to handwritten prescriptions and saves time in the process of prescribing. One aspect that hinders the efficiency of prescribing is illegible prescriptions. Doctors, in their haste, tend to have messy handwriting that may confuse the pharmacist on the type of drug or dose units because of illegibility. This is an example of an illegible prescription. Pharmacists were puzzled as to whether the prescription read Plendil or Isordil. Even though Plendil looks like the more probable option to some, the intended drug was Isordil. EPCS can prevent this confusion because it takes away the need for handwritten prescriptions completely. EPCS also increases efficiency by reducing errors in prescriptions. The Journal of General Internal Medicine published a study conducted by a group of doctors analyzing errors in electronic and paper prescriptions. They reviewed various prescriptions at a point in time and then again at the 1-year mark. This graph illustrates their results. For e-prescribing doctors, error rates decreased nearly 7-fold from 42.5 per 100 prescriptions at baseline to 6.6 per 100 prescriptions 1 year after adoption. For non-adopters, error rates remained high at nearly the same amount. Errors still occur within electronic prescriptions, but as professionals continue to improve this technology, these errors are being reduced. Another way EPCS can increase efficiency is by eliminating specific processes and problems in the prescribing system that waste time. EPCS reduces instances of a pharmacy having to call back to clarify a prescription. PCMA claims that reduced numbers of callbacks to clarify prescriptions could save $439 million annually. Further, EPCS eliminates costly and time-consuming processes involving specialized printers and paper. Dr. Russell Cole, who works at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, currently uses an electronic prescribing system. He summarizes his view of the efficiency of EPCS in this way. Not having to deal with the controlled substance printer is a benefit, as is avoiding the cost of controlled substance paper. Overall, EPCS makes the prescribing process more efficient by eliminating many problems that are time-consuming. Even though EPCS provides enormous benefits in many aspects of the health industry, some challenges remain, such as implementation costs. The immediate high costs associated with the EPCS system are a significant barrier that many organizations will face. When organizations consider the long-term cost savings and other significant benefits, however, the system is well worth the cost. In research reported in Perspectives in Health Information Management, researchers gathered information from 47 credible sources and analyzed the benefits and barriers of implementation for EPCS. They found that cost savings due to improved patient outcomes and decreased patient visits are estimated to be between $140 billion and $240 billion over 10 years for practices that implement e-prescribing. With almost all healthcare providers looking for ways to keep quality healthcare affordable for consumers, these are massive savings that organizations must consider. Further, EPCS reduces the number of costly adverse drug events, which commonly result from instances of forgery and diversion. One study conducted from just one outpatient clinic analyzing errors in e-prescriptions found that reduced numbers of ADEs, as well as other costly situations, had massive cost savings. While these are only a few of the many cost-saving benefits of EPCS, organizations must also take a broader perspective when considering the cost of this system. Since EPCS has the potential to save many lives, healthcare organizations must weigh their economic priorities against the lives of the patients. Overall, the system may take prescribers time, money, and practice to be able to prescribe easily. However, with the adoption of this system will come improvement, thus continually multiplying the benefits for patients and providers. When organizations consider the long-term cost savings and improved patient care, the system is very beneficial and cost-effective. Improved patient care is the underlying goal of all of these technological advancements and should be the desire of all healthcare providers. EPCS is a powerful technology with tremendous potential to help doctors and pharmacists free people from their addictive behaviors and from the opioid epidemic. As well as being the primary concern of doctors, the health and welfare of people is very close to God's heart. Scripture provides many instances of God physically caring for his people. Matthew 14:14 says that when Jesus went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them, and he healed their sick. The Old Testament also records accounts of God healing his people. In Numbers 21, God instructed Moses to make a bronze serpent for the people to look at in order to heal them from the bites of the serpents in the wilderness. God has made and makes a way for healing in many ways. EPCS could be a step on the path towards healing for many, and it must be utilized. When EPCS is implemented and the prescribing process becomes much more efficient, the quality of patient care will greatly increase, and countless lives could be saved from the deadly opioid epidemic. In closing, Dr. Sean Kelly, a practicing emergency physician in Boston, states in his article about electronic prescriptions in fighting Florida's opioid epidemic, EPCS has indeed emerged as one of the most effective tools to fight the opioid epidemic. It's a tool that Florida and every state should be utilizing. EPCS is incredibly important because it can save time and money, but most importantly, it can save lives. EPCS is the future of prescribing. While it should be implemented for many reasons, Dr. Kelly is correct. The most important reason is to save lives. Thank you.
Great job, Sarah. Thanks. So a couple questions. One of them, people are always somewhat resistant to change. How do you think, what are some things you think could help established prescribers, shall we say, the older prescribers, to adopt this new technology?
A slow transition is a good option for that. Slowly, first, maybe into just e-prescribing, not necessarily of controlled substances, but a slow transition because the new technology can be difficult. So a slow transition just bit by bit with the ultimate goal being using EPCS.
Okay. And another question, did you see any data or do you have any ideas about by what percentage, if this was completely implemented, would this have the potential to impact the prescription opioid epidemic?
I did not research anything exactly like that, but I would assume it would have a substantial effect. And the effects of just the ability for some prescribers to prescribe controlled substances like that, that can cascade into other effects such as preventing forgery and preventing diversion and things like that. And it could ultimately impact many aspects of the health of the opioid epidemic.
Thank you.